Welcome to the WrestleTalk News. I'm Quinnell. AEW introduced their third weekly TV show earlier this year in June in the form of Collision, which seemed to be primarily brought about as a show for CM Punk to be featured, keeping him away from the other members of the Elite that he had issues with. And even with its shakier ratings to start with, it very much had a distinct personality and brand. Those ratings have continued to be shaky though, especially following CM Punk's firing from the company. However, it continues to march on with no signs of stopping, except for when AEW schedules pay-per-views to go right against it, seemingly. Because AEW recently announced their World's End pay-per-view on Saturday, December 30th, and Saturday, you may notice, is the same day Collision takes place too. So how will they solve this predicament? Pre-tape Collision and have it air earlier, do Collision on a different day? Well, according to Andrew Zarian, it very well may be the case that Collision simply doesn't happen that week, which is particularly notable considering Full Gear is set to broadcast on Saturday, September 18th, yet the Collision episode that would have aired that day is instead set to air the day prior, on Friday, September 17th. But it seems there are no such plans for the December 30th episode. What does this mean for the future? It could very well just be a one-off minor blip, or could indicate a larger view of Collision and how it's becoming more replaceable over time. Who knows? Meanwhile, things are looking up for NXT as they announced they'll be moving their broadcast to CW in October 2024, which was surprising news for many, especially surprising perhaps for those in NWA. As last month, Billy Corgan announced that he was going to unveil a broadcast deal for NWA with a top 20 network, later reported to BCW. But now this deal with NXT has appeared, and Fightful Select is reporting that those within NWA were surprised by the news, with one going one further to say that they were blindsided. However, according to the reports, negotiations between WWE and CW had been going on for months, long before the rumors of NWA moving there too. And of course, wrapped into this whole story is the controversy surrounding NWA as it is, with a cocaine angle that took place reportedly souring the deal with CW. According to House of Wrestling, that cocaine spot actually led to the WWE and CW talks accelerating. And that's not all, as NWA talent are also said to be growing frustrated with Billy Corgan and his leadership following this segment, and with the CW deal seemingly falling through. This is in addition to frustrations surrounding Corgan's reported unavailability between tapings to discuss creative, and his reported preferential treatment of some talent over others. And he also reportedly made talent go through tests to show their loyalty to him and the promotion. Well, let's get away from that craziness by talking about Vince McMahon. Goody! TKO, the now merged company of WWE and UFC, recently did a filing with the SEC, where they listed 2 new risk factors. Both of them are about Vince McMahon. Specifically, the 2 risk factors were the Special Committee of Independent Members of WWE's Board of Directors investigation into allegations of misconduct by Mr. McMahon, and any further allegations and investigations may have an adverse financial and operational impact on our business performance, and Mr. McMahon's membership on our board could have adverse financial and operational impacts on our business. His mere existence on the board of directors could have adverse effects on the company. You know, something tells me that this Ari Emanuel chap absolutely played Vince, but hey, that's just my opinion.
Do you have plans to watch Survivor Series? Well, why not come and watch WWE Survivor Series live and in person with the WrestleTalk team, with over 100 other wrestling fans, along with a live version of our Parts of Unknown board game series, No Holds Barred, at the Long Arm Pub and Brewery in London. Not only will we be watching Survivor Series together, but we'll be doing our live reactions to the show from the pub, which means you will have the chance to be on camera and part of the WrestleTalk live experience. This is the best way to watch wrestling pay-per-views, and tickets are available right now. Get your tickets today and we'll see you there to be part of moments like this.
No, it's Kyrie! It's Kyrie Sane! It's Kyrie Sane! Oh my God! Kyrie Sane is back! It's Kyrie! It's Kyrie Sane!
I'm Ollie Davis. You know what that means. Time for my review of AEW Dynamite. In about 5 minutes. The episode had yet another MJF cold open, where he talked about Jay White pinning him clean last week, and actually, wait a second, They seem to be getting a phone call. I wonder who it could be. Maybe it's the giant Adam Cole on the Zoom call directly behind him. Cole advised Max to team up with Samoa Joe as he's worried about him, starting our night-long narrative thread of whether MJF would accept Joe's help defending the ROH Tag Team titles in exchange for giving Joe another World Championship match. A deal with the devil, you might say. But before then, Max is going to be a fighting babyface and take on Daniel Garcia in the opening match, where Garcia is going to drop the sports entertainment and give a serious pro wrestler. Unfortunately for him, his dancing gimmick is too over. So he did his dance while he had MJF and his Dragon Tamer finisher, which let Max counter it into the armbar to win. Sure, Garcia didn't become the AEW World Champion, but like the plot of Flashdance, no one can tell anyone whether they can and can't dance. You did the right thing, Danny. You did the right thing. Max went to shake Garcia's hand afterwards, but 2.0 pulled Danny away. Do not adjust your sets. You are not watching Sting versus the Hollywood Blondes in WCW in 1993. You are watching Sting versus the Outrunners in AEW. Sting and Darby Allin easily beat the two best-named wrestlers in the business right now, Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd, no relation to Jack or Jake, with the Scorpion Deathlock. Tony Schiavone conducted a pre-filmed black and white contract signing segment between Tony Storm and Shida. Tony's act is fun, but it doesn't feel title match worthy to me. Later on, RJ City announced Stardom's Mariah May has become AEW's newest signee, effectively explaining in a brief 90-second backstage interview who she is, where she's come from, and what she's here for, seemingly to do a Mickie James Trish Stratus obsessed fangirl storyline with Tony Storm. My match of the night came next with Penta versus Swerve Strickland, proving the first rule of AEW. It should always be Penta. They had great back and forth action from the very start, trading tope attempts, just your standard Canadian destroyer on the ring apron spot, and a great finishing sequence of Penta reversing a 450 into an arm break spot, but Swerve getting out of that to hit a Death Valley driver, an arm break spot of his own, and the stomp for the win. Penta should be in the same #1 contenders main event mix as Hangman and Swerve. Speaking of Hangman, with Paige banned from ringside for the match, he appeared as soon as the bell rang with a chair, wailing on Swerve, taking out two members of security, and hitting a deadeye off the ramp through a table off of it. This is the intense, avenging follow-up we needed last week, off of the Swerve home invasion angle we got the week before that. After a very cool video promo for the Callis family versus the Golden Jets, which sounds like a water sports kink, the Young Bucks crashed Kenny and Jericho's backstage interview, with Matt arguing with Chris, who actually started AEW. This set up the Golden Jets versus the Bucks at Full Gear, where if the Jets win, they get the Bucks' tag team title shot. Remember that, because AEW seems to have forgotten until now. And if the Bucks win, the Jets have to break up. Kenny's frustration over Matt and Nick's behavior was intriguing enough to stop me thinking, how many more elite breakup storylines can they do? I'm afraid the next match isn't suitable for vegetarians or vegans. It's carnivore diet only, because it saw Samoa Joe defending his ROH TV title against Keith Lee. Meat. Recalling the Limitless One of yesteryear, Lee looked in good shape and hit his impressive leapfrog early on. Him and Joe went back and forth in a big guy hoss fight, with the crowd chanting meat for pretty much every move, but Lee's worked over knee gave way, letting Joe choke him out in the Kikina clutch, the third straight submission win of the night. The post-match angle shockingly then saw Joe declare himself the best ROH TV champion in history, and then vacate the belt, because he's hungry for the AEW World Championship. AEW booked themselves into a bit of a corner here. Joe no longer having the ROH mid-card title does make him feel like a more credible threat to Max's AEW World title belt, but you wouldn't want to beat him as he gains momentum, so vacating the title there makes sense. But it does come with a cost. It totally undermines ROH as a brand, its mid-card title, and all the guys who are going to try and win it next. Orange Cassidy explained how he needs to beat Moxley because his international title doesn't feel complete, whereas Moxley said as soon as they land in LA for Full Gear, it's gang gang warfare. Hopefully that means anarchy in the arena craziness between the Best Friends and Blackpool Combat Club around the singles match of Cassidy versus Mox. The Guns squashed the Bollywood Boys and then got loads of heat calling the fans fat pieces of S-word. It's the second hour's second quarter compulsory women's match. Julia Hart beat Red Velvet, who was making her return after 9 months out from injury. Hart has improved significantly, both in the performance of her goth character and her in-ring work. She beat Velvet relatively easily and then had a weird non-verbal stare down with Sky Blue for Chris Statlander to get in between them and be way taller. And the main event saw Mark Briscoe versus Jay White, with the winner facing MJF for the world title at Full Gear, something I actually thought had already been decided, because booking-wise, this was almost pointless, given Jay's amount of TV story time specifically with Max about the world title over the last 6 weeks, and Mark Briscoe not being around at all. It was so obviously going to be White who won. It's almost as predictable as me beating Luke Owen in the Fantasy Booking Warfare semi-finals this Saturday on Parts Unknown, which you can watch. Yeah, bruv. Yeah, I'm gonna beat you on the Fantasy Booking Warfare.
I'm doing this for my family, bruv. I'm doing this for... I'm gonna fancy book you, bruv. I'm gonna fancy book you so hard, bruv. This Saturday, I'm gonna see you on Saturday, bruv.
Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday, bruv.
Oh yeah, I'll see you Saturday.
Bruv. Yeah, subscribe, bruv. I've had enough of you, bruv. It's my family, bruv.
But credit to Mark, his babyface intensity made this at least fun to watch. Jay won with a nasty straitjacket suplex, then a Blade Runner. MJF then took out the Gangbang Gang with his diamond ring afterwards, but Jay escaped. Max cut a super babyface promo saying he's fighting for Cole and for all us fans, because he's our scumbag. But then the lights cut out, revealing Max's other friends, the Acclaimed, getting beaten up backstage by the Masked Men, with Bowens getting thrown through a window. Gee, a glass-breaking spot. I wonder who that could be. Max ran backstage to check on them for Samoa Joe to appear behind him and point out, "Looks like you've got no friends," and walk off doing maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. That was a very good cliffhanger from a neat episode throughline. This week's Dynamite is 80%. Now watch on to find out the 10 best AEW pay-per-view matches of all time.